Okay, welcome back. I'd like to call to order the board meeting for the Thurston Conservation District Board of Supervisors here September 27th at 6:30 p.m. For the record, we have all 5 of our supervisors here with us at the moment, as well as our executive director, Sir Moorhead, and we have Ben Cushman, our legal counsel. A few other people too. Jean Fike, hello, it's good to see you from State Conservation Commission. Alina Reynolds from the Department of Ecology. And am I missing anyone? That's all I see here. So welcome everybody. We are recording, as you heard, we're recording our meeting here this evening for the record. And the first item up here is an agenda review. Do we have any changes to the agenda from either board or staff? Sarah, your hand went up fast.
I have 2 requested changes. One of them is to add the Zangle Cove funding award to the agenda. We did receive that earlier than anticipated. So I'd like to discuss that with the board and put that up for approval tonight. The second thing is due to emergent issues, I would like to extend the executive session by 10 minutes.
Topics won't change, participants won't change. It's the same executive session. It just might take longer because new information has come in since we last published the agenda.
Okay, great. So we'll add the Zangle Cove contract as new item 6A under governance. And we'll push everything that was there down one. And we will extend the executive session from 7:20 to 7:40, giving us 20 minutes for the executive session. With that, and if there are no other changes, I will entertain a motion on our agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Moved by Betsy.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Doug. We shall vote on the agenda. Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Then chair votes aye. We have approved our agenda. That moves us to consent. We have 3 items on consent tonight. We have the board work session and meeting minutes from August 23rd that we worked on, or at least looked at in our work session earlier this evening. We have the September 2022 financial report, which was provided to us electronically by Yen. And we have RCO agreement 22-1548 Riverbend Ranch and construction project. So we need a motion on our consent agenda.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved by David. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
Betsy got in there first, so we'll take that as a second. Vote on consent. David?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Then chair votes aye. We have approved consent agenda. That moves us to public comment. This is the point at which any member of the public can address the board for up to 3 minutes on a topic of relevance to our work that might be on their mind. I don't know that we have any member of the agenda, member of the public here tonight who wishes to address us, but this is your opportunity if you're out there. Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I will close public comment. We will keep our streak of many, many meetings without public comment alive here, I guess. Eventually that streak will change, I know it will. That moves us then to item 5, partner reports. First up here, NRCS, and I noticed that Rebecca is with us tonight. Just saw her pop up on my screen. So welcome, Rebecca. We'd love to hear what's going on at NRCS.
Hi. So we've had a couple things going on with NRCS here. And so the first is that we had 3 CSP contracts that were signed and they're in the process of getting obligated. That's the conservation stewardship program that we have that's kind of next level up from our EQIP program. So it's kind of focused on the folks who are already doing a good job out there. They've got their infrastructure in, and we're kind of helping them go to the next step of their conservation through things like, monitoring, records keeping, doing a little bit more on top of what they're already doing, and giving them some financial incentive to do so. We have one CSP renewal application for fiscal year 23 that I'm going to start working up next week, and we still have our deadline for the fiscal year 23 application deadline for Equip and CSP of October 13th. Right now for Equip 23, I have 6 deferred applications from fiscal year 22 that were not funded, that are being rolled over. I have 8 applications on file right now, and 10 more applications are supposed to be coming in, and they just haven't gotten me all their information yet. So that's a lot of what we've been doing. It's a lot of the start of the year, right? And so we're at the very, very end of fiscal year 22, about to start fiscal year 23. So they'll be releasing all of our fiscal year 23, cost lists for all of the different practices. We're thinking that they're going to be changing a little bit this year. And also another big thing that my supervisor has been telling us, she was on detail for the national urban team. And so she's saying that there's going to be a lot more small farm practices and scenarios coming out that are focusing on 5 acre or less or 1 acre or less farms, and they'll be paying on the per square foot basis or the per 1,000 square feet basis. So there will be some changes that'll be a little bit friendlier to some of the smaller folks out there.
Sarah, your hand went up.
I also heard that this might include BMPs eligible for community garden spaces in addition to just, single landowner, or renter BMPs.
Yeah, so we've always been, we've always worked with nonprofits or community gardens or any entity really. Any entity can apply, and they come in and they're treated the same throughout the whole application and contracting process that our more conventional farmers and ranchers are. So it's pretty exciting, and I've been going out on a lot of meetings with smaller folks, and entities made up of quite a few farmers, and so they're kind of going into their farms from a community mindset.
I'm wondering if this new information for small farms and community gardens, that sort of stuff, is that all going to be consolidated into some sort of easy to digest fact sheet or brochure or a piece of a website or something?
I bet it will be. My supervisor, Amy, has been on the committee. She just put together a urban training for the national level. And so I can ask her for some support documents there that I can email to Sarah, who can hopefully then email out to everybody. Does that sound good?
As a small farmer, I see that sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome.
We're also looking at applying for the Conservation and Innovation Grant to do some urban agriculture project work. So that would be really helpful for that as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I would love to get some more details on that.
I'll
That's
give you a
super
call.
cool. Sweet.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Rebecca this evening? Thanks for being
This
here.
is-
Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Okay, next partner report then is Department of Ecology, Elena Reynolds. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. I have some very short updates for you all. Number one is that our grant applications for our centennial funding is due on October 12th. Next, we have had some ERTs come in for the south of the county, mainly areas where that drain into the Chehalis Basin. And one notably where there are, we'll be watching for during the wet season to see if they implement the recommendations we have included in a TA letter we have sent to them. Our standard practice is that we CC the conservation district, as is our standard practice to refer folks to the conservation district, as your resources are numerous and very helpful. The second one is that is also along Coffee Creek, where there's been some drainage district activity in the past, and that's been neglected for some time. And since then, because of that, there's been reed canary grass that's been growing up, and it's been causing some flooding issues in the surrounding areas. We have been working with some landowners around that area, one in particular, and working with him to work around those challenges with the abandoned drainage district. Finally, we had a question we wanted to ask our local districts. What would be the most helpful information to put in our monthly updates? We've been including active ERTs that are in each county, and we were wondering if including information such as ERTs that we received, the number of which, say we received 2 this month, but we have 4 or 5 that are still active within the county as a whole. Is that information helpful to you? What other information would be helpful since we're doing some revamping? Hi, Sarah.
I'm not sure if we can hear TJ, but yeah, I think that this would be a great question that I could take to our technical team and ask them about that piece on the staff side to see what types of updates and information might be helpful for us on the implementation side, which may be different than what our board is interested in seeing.
Okay. Betsy, I know your hand is up.
Well, I think I'm interested in knowing new ones and what ones have not been resolved. Because it would give us a chance to see how long some of these take to resolve.
Yes, that the timeline on our sites of concern can vary very greatly, and it depends on the resources available to those landowners and operators. But some can take a number of years.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Oh, Elena.
I'm sorry, TJ. I'll turn my volume up. Do you mind trying again?
You all hear me now? Okay. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. Just wondering is there any other comments or questions before we move on from ecology? Okay, if not, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. And we'll move to the next part of your report, which is the State Conservation Commission. Hello, Jean.
Hello, it's nice to see everyone. It's been a little while. Yeah, just a couple things. This board tends to be more in the loop than a lot of boards I work with, so I'll just hit a couple of high points and then take any questions that you'd like. So I want to thank your district for participating in the Salmon Recovery Funds program. That was a new program for us. It was a little bit of a surprise in the legislative session, and there have been some hiccups in the rollout, and thank you for your patience with that. And thank you for being part of the wonderful response that districts have had to that opportunity. I think there was some concern that there wouldn't be enough time and interest and capacity and suitable projects, but we're seeing just I don't know, something along the lines of $7 million so far in projects that have been applied for, and most of which are being funded. So thank you, and thank you for your continued patience. We're still working some kinks out. So please loop me in anytime I can help, but thank you. It's been very impressive. The other thing I wanted to thank Sarah in particular for, we've been having a series of roundtables. The commission was asked, I think that's how it started, could we convene a sort of an online meeting of district folks and commission folks and ask questions, share ideas. It might even have been Sarah's idea. I can't even, was it? It might have been. Yeah, anyway, it was a great idea, I think, and it's been going. I missed the last one. I was out of town, but I think they're very helpful for the commission, and I hope they're helpful for districts. And Sarah in particular has been just really valuable in those, asking really good questions, offering resources. So I just wanted to thank you for that as well. And I'm happy to take any questions at all. It's been a while since I was here.
Earlier in our work session, we were talking a little bit, speculating on legislative agendas for next session. Is there anything you can share about what's the talk is at the commission, or where things might be headed, so that we will be in a position to be good allies when the time comes?
That's a great question. The only thing I know so far was at the most recent commission meeting, the commissioners asked the staff to essentially move forward with the recommendations out of the elections committee, the joint committee on elections. Those recommendations to again pursue a legislative version of adoption of those into legislation. That's the only one I'm aware of so far, TJ, other than of course our budget priorities, which you're aware of, and the hope that the salmon recovery funding in some form would be available in the next biennium. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think that's all I've heard so far. But great question and timely. We may hear more either at the area meetings or at the WACD meeting here in just a little bit. I understand at the WACD meeting there'll be the usual sort of things we expect to happen in the legislative session. What's the temperature? What are people hearing? We'll hear from their lobbyists, that kind of thing. But I don't know if there'll be anything before that.
Any other questions, comments for Jean while we have her here?
Excuse me.
Okay. Thank you much. We will move on to Doug, WACD, NACD updates.
Nothing to add to the written report I provided for WACD or the comments I made during the work session, but I would like to apprise you of two items with regard to NACD nationally. The forestry group for NACD is proposing a resolution to work with FSA, Farm Services Administration, to change the way they do grass buffers. The way it sits now, my understanding is that to reapply for your a grass buffer, you have to convert it back to grass. Some of those grass buffers have got beneficial woody vegetation on them, trees, shrubs, whatnot, and we're thinking that makes a whole lot more sense than grass in a lot of cases, and that they ought to be able to reapply. So we'll see how far that goes. The Forestry Committee forwarded it to the Natural Resources Policy Committee, which is one of NACD's foundation committees, and they said they thought that was a good idea, and we're pushing that forward. So we'll see what happens there. The other item I wanted to let you know was I provided input to NACD's next edition of their strategic plan. They're pretty general planning questions, no surprises, kind of what's the emphasis, what direction should we go. I basically emphasized Farm Bill and getting work done on the ground. And that's my report.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Any comments, questions for Doug? I have one quick thing, Doug. I haven't seen an agenda or any detail come out yet about the WACD conference. I just sort of have dates as a placeholder. Do you have any sense of when we're going to get any more detail on that?
I will call tomorrow. I'm supposedly on the planning committee and I've heard nothing.
Not a good sign necessarily.
I concur.
But I appreciate if any information you can share on that. You know, I think a lot of us have it as placeholders, but probably want to see what's actually happening on the ground. So.
I think I worked with a gentleman one time. He said, don't ask me to go to a meeting without an agenda. And also tell me why I need to be there.
Yeah, right.
I thought those were two really good criteria.
Okay, thank you, Doug. With that, let's move on to item 6, governance. We'll start with the new item that we added here, which is the Zangle Cove project. Sarah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and I can pull that up here on the screen. This is a little bit of a different style of grant award, in that if you apply for this funding source, and you are selected to receive the award, you are given the money and it is sent your way. You're given the terms of utilizing the money, but there's not exactly a contract that is reviewed and signed afterwards. It's sort of upfront. These are the terms. If you'd like to apply for the money, here it is. And so that was new. This is the only contract of this type that we've come across at our district. So I can pull that up here for you guys shortly. But I wanted to have some conversation about that to see if the board is interested and feels comfortable supporting the approval of this award tonight. This is an additional $40,000 to go towards the Zangle Cove bulkhead removal and restoration project that we already have existing funding for. Through the development of that project, the costs have come in higher than anticipated, essentially. And so we applied for some additional funding through this program to cover those costs and meet those additional needs so that this project can continue to move forward. And we were easily awarded that money through this process. So because our current, my current delegation of authority allows me to sign contracts and agreements of $30,000 or less, and this one is at $40,000, even though there's not any sort of signature here, I would like to ask the board for approval of the receipt of these funds and inclusion of them in our budget and, you know, the ability to spend this on the Zangle Cove project. Does the board have any questions on that?
I've got the
Go ahead.
basic question. Is there a downside?
No, I think there's a big upside in that this is necessary funding to cover some shortfalls with elevated cost estimates that have been coming back for this project.
Thank you.
My question would be for Ben. Ben, because Sarah outlined this as kind of a different type of funding arrangement, do you have any particular concerns with this sort of take the money and run kind of contract or agreement?
No.
Okay, that's the answer I was hoping for.
That's the best legal opinion I've ever heard.
Yeah, and the shortest too.
So I move that we take the money and run.
Or maybe we should put a little bit more substance into that motion, Helen, but you can
Okay.
make the motion.
Do you have a sample, Sarah? A sample motion?
Or just at least let's use the name of the project or the funding source in the motion. Okay.
Yeah.
So I move that we just accept that you be directed to accept the grant from the Zangle Cove Pacific Marine and Estuary Partnership Grant.
Okay, it's been moved by Helen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by David. Let's vote on taking the money and running. Helen,
Aye.
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
chair votes aye. You have your direction on that one, Sarah?
Got it. Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming up with a creative solution to a funding shortfall too. That's appreciated. Okay, next up is WACD resolutions. We spent some time at our work session talking about this. We had no original resolution coming forward from this board, but we were interested in essentially signing on and moving forward the resolution being put forward by Pierce County that would eliminate the the population threshold and the maximum cap for locally raised funds here. We have the resolution in front of us. Work with Conservation District, Washington State Conservation Commission, others in the legislature to change Chapter 89089 RCW, dropping the population criteria in Section 400 sub 3 and removing the maximum annual rate per parcel to allow jurisdictions to set their own maximum rates. So that's what Pierce is going to be proposing at the Northwest area meeting. And if we want to propose it at the Southwest area meeting and make this our own resolution, we would need a resolution to do that. Or a motion to do that, sorry.
I'll make the motion. I would point out, you said you had some wording improvements.
Well, I'm actually comfortable leaving it as is. I think the intent is clear. I wouldn't have written it like that. I find it a little clunky, but I think the intent is clear and that's what matters. And probably staying consistent with Pierce is a good thing.
And I would also add that it's for the Southwest region, the checkbox up above rather than Northwest.
Yep. Okay, so Doug's made the motion that we move forward with this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Helen. We spent time discussing this already, so we'll move straight to a vote here. Doug, we'll start with you.
Aye.
Helen,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. So we will move that forward to the Southwest area meeting with Doug and Sarah and potentially David representing us in that conversation. That moves us then to item C, staffing plan update. Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of updates here. One, as you saw in my report and got to meet, we have a new member of our technical team, Kendall Carmen, who will be part of our farm planning sub-team as a natural resource specialist at the district. We're very fortunate, excited to have her on board. The second thing is, as you saw in some of your work session materials that I sent you ahead of time, we've been very successful at being awarded a lot of funding in the last couple of months. It's almost $1 million worth of new funds in the last 2.5 months, which is fantastic. And there's many more proposals out there for award and more proposals on the horizon to apply for. All of that to say is we're doing a really good job at responding to community need and really rising to the, sort of expectations and interests of a lot of our partners in the community as well. Now we're at another critical point where we need to make sure we have the capacity also to execute that and to continue to build those services and programs. So I'm coming to the board tonight to share this information with you, to ask for support from the board to begin up to two hiring processes. I did not say that well. Begin up to 2 hiring processes before the 2023 calendar year, so we can get a jump start on implementation for some of these funds. Some of these funds and projects are planned for implementation in 2023. So time is definitely of the essence. You'll see both the funding sources and the increase in staffing positions reflected through the 2023 budget development process, which will begin next month. But what I would like from the board is support to begin the recruitment of these individuals. The 2 positions that we are in need of most readily are additional habitat capacity to implement a lot of the habitat projects. Jean mentioned that we've been very successful in receiving salmon recovery funding dollars. We've also been really successful through a variety of different funding capacities in receiving more community outreach funding. And so an outreach assistant position is needed to support that, and sort of the growing sophistication and reach of a lot of our events. Nora mentioned, you know, our plant sale now sees about 100 or 1,000 people, excuse me, a year. We're anticipating 350 to 500 at our first annual harvest festival. So we're really growing in terms of popularity, and that definitely increases the capacity on staff to put together those programs and services. So this is new funding that we've included in our budget. You can see that in our new budget versus actuals that Yen has provided. And so I'd like to update that component of the staffing plan to add those 2 additional positions. I'm still scoping, you know, in terms of whether or not I'd like to start either of those positions as a project employee position that with the intent that it will become permanent. That's something that we'll be reviewing sort of our multi-year staffing plan for the outreach assistant position. But at this point, we have a lot of successive funding coming in over grants that we've already applied for the next couple of years to sustain both of those long term. So any questions from the board? I think I've given you more than enough info there. Sorry.
Do you need a resolution to do that?
Well, this is a good point of clarification too. When I came to the board earlier in the summer to talk about expanding the staff beyond what was in the existing staffing plan as approved in part of our budget, the feedback that I got was, is this utilizing money that is already in the approved budget for the year? And I said, yes. These new positions would be funded out of newly awarded money. So I just wanted to be in good communication with the board. I think it's up to the board whether or not you would feel most comfortable making a motion to support those positions or just offering support. I just want to make sure that we're in good communication about the capacity needs and sort of the plan moving forward.
I would think that it would probably not be our place to say yes to hiring positions. It is our responsibility to approve the 2023 budget that will fund those positions. And so I think that's the point at which our action authorizes a hiring and utilization. And this is more just feedback. Are we comfortable letting her go forward, knowing that there will be a budgetary impact for us in 2023? Any objections to allowing Sarah to move forward with this process?
I think it's exciting. I'm thrilled.
I think you characterized it accurately, TJ. The work's there, the money's coming in. It's our job to say yay or nay when we get the next budget coming up.
And I would just offer one comment that if possible, we would like to start these positions sooner rather than later. So, you know, if that's December of 2022, that would be advantageous for us in terms of project design and development.
I think if it's within existing budget, that's within your authority to do without our action. I do like the fact that you're thinking about the long-term bow effect of bringing on staff and thinking about whether they should be projects or full-time. You know, those decisions were potentially easier before we had a bargaining unit. And so with the bargaining unit, that makes things a little bit more complicated when you bring on somebody in a full-time permanent position. So thank you for kind of thinking that through a little bit. And I'm seeing a lot of head nods here, and it sounds like you can go forward at this point, and we will look at this when we look at the budget over the next couple of months.
And Sarah, if this is going to make a budget adjustment to bring them on in December rather than January, that should probably be brought to the board, but as a minor budget amendment.
Yeah, and how we've been doing those, as we receive grant funding throughout the year is when those contracts are approved by the board, they're immediately added to the budget versus actuals and things like that, so that the board is seeing that and approving the inclusion of those funds in the budget in each monthly report. If there's a different process that the board would like for that, I'm more than happy to do that as well.
I think that's sufficient.
That's been working for us, so let's stick with that for now. Okay, thank you. Let's move then to item D, Resolution 2022-03, another budgetary item here, authorizing use of cash operating reserve fund. This is one we've seen before. We see this periodically due to the nature of rates and charges and when we get distributions from the county. So this is an action that we've taken at least annually in the last couple of years. And so we're being asked to take this action again today to take money out of the cash operating reserve fund that we established to keep things moving forward until we get our next infusion of rates and charges money around November 10th. So this is the short-term inter-fund loan, I guess you would call it, within an existing budget.
I move to approve resolution 2022-3.
Moved by Betsy,
Second.
seconded by David. Any discussion on this one? If not, we'll take a vote. Betsy,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. We have approved resolution 2022-03. That then moves us to our last item before executive session, which is taking a look at what's coming up next month here for our work session and our meeting. Gonna get a draft up here in front of us here.
There we go. Can you see that here?
Yep, it's there. So this looks very much like the work session we had earlier this evening. A lot of the same topics.
And just a note, this would be follow-up on any WACD resolutions that were passed in the Southwest area.
Yes.
Doug has a hand up.
Yeah, Doug.
I suggest putting in potential legislation. I mean, that may be really, really short, but there should be something happening between now and then.
Sorry about that. We'll try that again.
Is that a Kraken shirt you have on, David?
No, this is my Salmon Defense t-shirt.
Oh,
They have a Salmon Defense golf tournament every year, and this was our swag.
well,
Okay, so we've had one item to the work session, then we've got the board meeting here. Looks also quite typical here. Am I missing it here, or is this the point at which we get the first look at the budget for 2023?
Yes, this is where you'll get the first look, and we'll have that on the work session to get feedback from the board, and then we'll move that yeah. So I'll put budget development.
So let's, is it on the work session? I don't see it.
No,
Okay.
I'm adding it there.
There we go. Great. Okay, so 2023 budget development added to the work session. Great. Anything else for work? Helen?
Well, I was just wondering, because I was kind of wondering the same thing and how that relates to the 2023 work plan, or, you know, what's the timeline for that?
Yeah, so if you'll remember earlier this summer, one of the things that we talked about was starting to have budget development conversations in October, but providing the actual draft of the budget in November, because we don't close third quarter until like the third week of October. So we want to work with actuals. In the past, we have developed the budget and approved the budget, and then aligned the budget with our strategic plan. So you typically see that in January. Sometimes you see that in December if we're ahead of the curve in terms of our budget development process. It just depends on when that budget is developed, and it's usually the following month that we've approved the annual plan. I think last year we actually approved them both in tandem in December, and the year prior we approved the annual work plan in January.
And as we're talking about these upcoming meetings for budget approval, November, December, January, I noticed that we don't have anything in terms of important dates on our current agenda. So let's get those upcoming meeting dates on the next agenda so that because I know we talked about potentially combining meetings and we changed some dates around, and I can't frankly remember what they were. So let's put them on here so we all have those down.
Absolutely.
I'm not clear. Were you saying let's put it on the agenda to discuss, or let's add them to the date part?
No, we discussed it last month in terms of when we wanted to meet, and okay, there they are there. For
Right.
some reason, I don't have them on my agenda here. The written or the hard copy agenda I got ends after October.
This is definitely still in development, so we'll make sure that we clean this part up and get all of those dates in there.
Great, thank you. That's all I was asking. Make sure that so we can get our work done and we all can participate through the end of the year. Okay, great. If there's nothing else on working for next month's agendas, the 25th, I will note also, I will not be at the next meeting or work session. I will be off grid on a post-farm vacation. So our able vice chair, Helen, will be running the show next month. I'll be back in November. So with that, we are now going to move into an executive session. This executive session is for the purpose of discussing potential litigation with our legal counsel. Those present in the executive session will include all 5 supervisors, our executive director, and our legal counsel. This is permitted under RCW 4230-110. We will be in that executive session for 20 minutes. And at which point we will come back into the public session for a report out of the executive session, and then we will adjourn this board meeting at that point. And again, we will take no action in executive session. This is for discussion purposes only.
Do you need to state the time that we'll return, since it varies from what's written?
Yes, I was just going to do that. So I'm going to say it's now 7:13. We're going to add 20 minutes to that. And so that's going to be 7:30, let's say 7:35. We will come back to this no later than 7:35. We will shortly receive an invitation to join a breakout room from Sarah, and those of us that receive that, and it's right here now, let's head over there.
Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Alina.
Okay, I see everyone but Betsy here. Give it a second for Betsy to get here. There we go. Okay, we are all back in public session here. We just concluded an executive session discussing potential litigation with our legal counsel. We took no action in that executive session. We had discussion. The time is now 7:32 p.m. And with that, the last item on our public meeting agenda tonight is to adjourn. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
Moved by David. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Helen. The vote is on adjourning our meeting. David,
Aye.
Helen,
Aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
chair votes aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you all for another productive and efficient meeting. And Sarah, I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see the